can't stop him.
There's gotta be something we can do. Can't you just cast the spell again? But the original way, before I screwed it
We're
up.
too late for that. They're here. Because of you.
Everyone forgot who I was.
What?
They're coming here because of me, right? Because I'm Peter Parker? So can everyone forget who Peter Parker is? Make everyone forget. Me.
No.
But it would work, right?
Yeah, it would work. But you gotta understand, that would mean that everyone who knows and loves you, we'd have no memory of you.
There was no perfect introduction to what I was going to talk about. Now, little did I know, I've been organizing my Ultimate Marvel comics and other things, and I'll even just show you right now. I had to pull stuff out. These are my stacks of Ultimate Marvel Zombies. There's a Magneto prequel here that is very good. You learn about Auschwitz and the Jews and World War II. Pretty good during this time to read. You got Civil War, and then you got, I think this is the end of Marvel. This is a Thanos story where Thanos dies, and then he somehow comes back. There's Ultimate Dr. Octopus over there, and then there's Ultimate Captain America, Origins, Wolverine, Earth X stuff. There's some Earth X stories down there. If you squint hard, you can see Captain America. They're got a mess. Yeah. So, couple of things have been happening here. The MCU is rumored to be restarting. That was, I guess, pretty obvious. It was Secret Wars, and then Secret Wars is going to be a reboot. Honestly, the only thing I'm paying attention to is the Deadpool movie with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine coming back, but in the yellow and blue outfit. That's the only thing I'm looking at. I think that's the only thing most people would be looking at that way more than Marvel's, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the Ultimate Universe coming back next year. Now, little did I know that I was thinking about the Ultimate Marvel Universe because I decided to go back to my old collection, and I don't pay attention to recent, comic book news. And most YouTubers focus on the movies and TV shows and cartoons, animated stuff. They focus on what's woke or what's not woke. They don't focus on like the comic books themselves that originate where the comic book characters originated from, right? They think about just whatever's in media and whatever's popular to everyone else. And I had not thought about it. So recently, and I say about June, this past June through September, they did a series called Ultimate Invasion. Now, I went and looked at some YouTubers' reviews of the 4 issues in which what the fuck did they do to Ultimate Reed Richards? They really did that to him, did you? It's really hard to go back and pretend like you can just, do the things like read these comic books like they were brand new. You could do that with the omnibuses? Is it omnibuses? Yeah, there's omnibuses on Amazon. You can get these issues. Now, I bought these issues. Actually, this one I got almost for free, but I set in the $5, and this is worth a bit more. This is like the white variant of Ultimate Spider-Man 1. There's Ultimate X-Men, the Ultimate Fantastic Four. There was Ultimate Adventures, which was like a Batman and Robin knockoff that I thought was funny. Ultimate Marvel Team Up. There was Ultimate Elektra, Ultimate Daredevil Elektra, which it's okay for a starting point. It's like a beginnings of Daredevil. I think some people didn't like that as much as the 90s Daredevil stories, but that idea was that Daredevil wasn't in the suit yet, and Elektra Natashos was his kind of college girlfriend, but then she got to be the Elektra, the hit woman, the enforcer for Kingpin. Things like that. Yeah, I don't know. There were just different comic books. The Ultimates, Ultimate War, Ultimate Nightmare with Galactus, Ultimates 2. So many different stories. Introduced a new Doctor Strange, who was the son of the original Doctor Strange. New Iron Man, new Doctor Doom. Just so many different stories. No America Chavez and Guardians of the Galaxy was still like the original one, but that's the Earth X trilogy that I'm thinking of right now. There was no Ultimate Guardians of the Galaxy, though I think this new one will probably have it just because James Gunn really brought him back in there in somehow the second version, not the first one with Astro Vance. So I mean, that's the Ultimate Universe. Okay. You can't go back. Now, I collected these comic books when I was 22 years old. And because before then, if you wanted to see the history of Marvel, I have the 50th anniversary book from 1939 to 89. And after that was the 90s era, in which you had Mark Bagley go crazy with Spider-Man art. You had X-Men art with the writers. Remember when Professor Charles Xavier was killed? And then there was the whole universe where there was no Professor Xavier, and everybody it was a slightly different universe. Magneto had the long braids and shit. They had made toys based on that. They had, what is it? I think She-Hulk was was the leader of the Fantastic Four. I think, I don't know, there were so many different stories. Or she was the fifth member. I don't remember. She took over for somebody. Maybe Thing. Really hard to say. So many different versions of 90s stories. Venom was so popular. Carnage came out in 92. There were trading cards. There were hologram cards for Spider-Man and Venom. So many gimmicks, so many things. To collect comic books in the 90s was a very different animal than what we have now. Because some people would say, oh yeah, back then. I could tell you, I remember there were so many pop-up comic book stores. Just like there are pop-up mobile phone stores or pop-up tablet stores or just whatever pop-up businesses you'll see these days of something else. There were pop-up comic book stores. And they had all the comic books, the back issues from the 80s and the 70s. Because the 70s and 60s stuff was just so recent. But anyway, it was hard to follow the Marvel comic books in the 90s because it was continuing on what was done in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s. That when Ultimate Marvel came out with Spider-Man first and then X-Men, it was the jumping on point for everyone. I mean, the art that you would see of young Peter Parker, young Mary Jane, Norman Osborn, and we had not seen what Green Goblin would look like. Spider-Man wasn't in the suit technically into the third issue, and he didn't have the full developed costume until the sixth issue. And Uncle Ben died, I think, in issue 4. He died in issue 4. So it was like the first few issues here was like the Man of Steel that John Byrne did in 86. And then X-Men was kind of the same way. You had 6 issues. You had Cyclops defecting to Magneto's team, of the Brotherhood. They were terrorists. Magneto was just evil. Just an evil, like Hamas-like terrorist guy with powers. Magneto can be a real person, but you stick magnets to their bodies. They can't fly through the air. So there's some real life people in real life that can actually do some things like mutants can do, but it's all just weird mutation thing. It's not like, oh my God, they can fly through the air and shit, But comic books sometimes are stranger than fiction, than nonfiction, and nonfiction can be stranger than fiction. It's just the way it is. So Ultimate X-Men, then we got to Ultimate Marvel Team Up, in which Spider-Man met every superhero in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. They were a little bit different. Some continuity was a bit disconnected when you got to the Ultimates. Like Ultimate Iron Man was different than in the Team Up. Hulk was about the same, and there were other things that were different. Fantastic Four was a little bit different. When you get to Ultimates, it's very, very different. Ultimates was the prototype to the Avengers. The Avengers would avenge the deaths of many people who died around the world. And the Avengers were funded by Iron Man, as opposed to Nick Fury and the government with the Ultimates. And yes, I mean, just like in the old comic books, Ant-Man did hit the Wasp. I mean, there was domestic violence between Hank Pym and Janet Pym. Okay, it was bad. These people were broken. Mark Miller, Brian Michael Bendis really made great dialogue in the Spider-Man stories. And Mark Miller made excellent characterizations in these. And I collected these issues: X-Men, Fantastic Four, Ultimates 2, Elektra, Daredevil, all Adventures, all the team-ups, everything that I could under the sun. up until Ultimates 2. And now what deterred me, I posted this before, that when the books were running late for Ultimates 2, that's when I started to check out. I really did. I checked out of Ultimate Spider-Man because Peter Parker was kind of whiny and mood swinging. And no pun intended, he was mood swinging in that he didn't want to put on the suit anymore. But then he kept going back to being Spider-Man after he lost Gwen Stacy, after Captain Stacy died, after people were getting hurt. Even Harry Osborn was turning into the Hobgoblin, the ultimate Hobgoblin. That was his friend. And I just felt like that was the highest point or the lowest point for Spider-Man, where Nick Fury wanted to get rid of his powers. And I felt like after that, there was no direction for him to go. So I collected other things to Ultimates 2, but the books were running late, like almost a year late. By the time we got to 2006, because I think Ultimates 2 ran in 2002 to 2003 or somewhere, or 2003 to 2004, somewhere. The books were running a couple of months late, then 3 months late, then a whole year. And that was shit. It was worth it in a way, but I was so tired of Ultimate Marvel by that point. I had moved on to Mark Millar's other project, Civil War, and I had collected alternate futures like The Last Planet Standing, the End Marvel, where Thanos killed all the heroes off and then remade the Marvel Universe because he wanted ultimate power. And then the Earth X trilogy, Earth X, Paradise X, Universe X. I have every single issue of those. Every single one, including the half. I have Ultimate Spider-Man half from Wizard and Ultimate Earth X half from Wizard. The Wizard exclusive issues. That's how thorough I am. Okay, I know there was a Comics Explained was supposed to do the Explain Paradise X, or Universe X, then Paradise X after Earth X, but I have all those issues. You can ask me about it. I can tell you. Finding the Paradise, going through all those characters, going through the other parts of the galaxy, we were going to see, you would know who the original Guardians of the Galaxy were. The original guys, not the newer ones. So, once I saw rumors or gossip that were talking about the ultimate death of Spider-Man, that's when I was like, okay, is Spider-Man going to die? Because we hadn't seen the 616 Spider-Man die. So he's, oh no, this is not the real one. This is the side character. But you know what? It's still the first time Spider-Man has ever died in a comic book. Which brings me to another point. These are the expectations I had. This is what kind of, it was here to set up the Marvel Universe of its own. It was there to set, like you set up your things, right? You set up your bottles, you set up your characters, right? You're setting up things, right? And that's what Marvel did. It took us through all those heroes and villains and supporting casts, right? This is the first time they're starting all over again, okay? This is a year before Smallville, the TV series, where you're setting up characters like you knew them before, but now you know them for the first time and you're setting them all up, okay? And establishing them. And then they revisit maybe a second time. These were the expectations I had for Ultimate Marvel. The first one is that the characters would age, which didn't really happen. That was my hope, is that the characters would get older. And I never really saw it. I don't know if that happened with Peter Parker, but never saw that. I remember like when Daredevil had a problem with Peter Parker, that Daredevil hated Spider-Man, thought he was a stupid kid. Like he really hated Spider-Man. The other expectation I had was that the characters would stay dead. Dead is dead. Beast came back. Spider-Man came back. Peter Parker came back. The last one is that returning less often villains. That means that the villains would not come back as often. Meaning that, like Magneto would not come more than once or twice in a while. Or Green Goblin. Green Goblin came back a second time to threaten Spider-Man. And then the third time was in the Ultimate Six, in which Spider-Man was the sixth ultimate, like the Sinister Six. You had Green Goblin, you had Kraven the Hunter, you had Sandman, you had Electro, and you had, I'm really trying to think. Oh, Dr. Octopus, right? But then there was one more, but that was Peter Parker. Peter Parker was number 6. Spider-Man wouldn't be number 6. And after those 3 times, I didn't want to see Norman Osborn again. But the next time I would see him, he would kill Peter Parker. He would destroy him. I know Ultimate Dr. Octopus was killed, unless they made him undead, which is entirely possible. What's happening now, from what I read in the Ultimate reviews of Ultimate Invasion, is that Peter Parker never got bit, though I do see some promotional art for original Spider-Man. Reed Richards is fighting an Ultimate Kang, which seems to be, maybe it's an older version of Iron Man or somebody else. I don't know who it is. So Miles Morales obviously is involved because he's from that universe. So it's Miles Morales, the Maker, who was formerly Reed Richards. I don't know what happened to Sue, Ultimate Sue Storm. It seems to me that something happened to Sue for Ultimate Reed to be like evil the way he is. So you'll all let me know what happened. And a lot of things are going on. There's time travel or different versions of time characters dealing with the multiverse, but narrowing it down to the Ultimate. They're trying to remake the Ultimate Universe, have these characters come back somehow in some capacity. But I don't think it's going to work. And as I told you in the thumbnail, you can't go home again. You know, it's spent its purpose. It's served its purpose. Let me see if George Lucas can explain it better.
Going into hyperspace, we got so used to it, we never even thought of it as anything. And it was never designed really to be an entertainment event. A lot of the times you think things are going to get a reaction and they don't. That's a rather depressing reality. It's rare that you do something that you don't realize is going to get a reaction. A lot of things about these fantasy films, and Star Wars in particular, is that you create a world, you live in that world for 3 or 4 years. So the things that you take for granted, you don't even think about anymore. And so when an audience sees it for the first time, they're like shocked. And you're completely familiar with everything, so it doesn't affect you the same way. And the irony is now everybody's sort of so familiar with Star Wars that there isn't anything in here that's, you can't shock people anymore. The only way you can actually experience that is to watch it through the eyes of a 6 or 7-year-olds that have never seen the movies before. And then you get that experience, but that experience was shared by everyone when the movie first came out.
So I guess, when you're trying to recreate the Ultimate Marvel Universe, after introducing the characters for the first time and villains keep returning, themes keep recurring, after a few years, it doesn't really... when Spider-Man died, when Peter Parker died, I don't care how he came back. When he died, that was my ending of collecting Ultimate Marvel anything. I just didn't give a shit. I moved on to the Civil War stuff. I moved on, when you go back to the Earth 1 books, for example. Like some of the Earth 1, Teen Titans, Wonder Woman, my least favorite. Superman, Green Lantern, Earth 1. Those were different because, they had only a handful, right? They were like movies. These books, these series were like movies in that you got one a year and then you waited for the next one. My favorites among these were Superman, Batman, and Green Lantern. I think Green Lantern being my favorite. Wonder Woman, not so much. And Teen Titans, it's... I have to go back and reread it sometimes to see if I like it or not. I have mixed feelings about the Teen Titans. But all I want to say is that, closing out, Ultimate Marvel's dead to me. It's dead. It should be dead to a lot of people. So don't look forward to too much more. It's like George Lucas said, you have to experience it through the eyes of a child, Star Wars. The only way you can really get anything out of Ultimate Marvel, what it represented, is a new Marvel universe where you start all over again. Whether it's the noir stuff here, like I have Spider-Man X-Men noir, or anything else. It's just, that's the only way you can do it. You can't do it with you can't do it with Ultimate Marvel. You can't go back home again. And that's all there is to that. And if you like this video, give a like, you know what to do. And see you in the movies, I guess.